Hi, I'm Jeanjaquet, Senior Director of Applied Technologies at Eclypses, and today we're going to talk a little bit about 0 days. Well, a 0 day is a vulnerability. It is something that exists right now, and unfortunately, we don't know about it yet. So for whatever reason, a flaw may have been introduced into a software or into a hardware, and the fact that it is now being actively attacked is a 0 day attack. Basically, what it means for us as a developer or somebody that's patching a system, it means that we have 0 days until that flaw is out in the wild right now. Some examples of some 0 days that we've had very recently here are at the tail end of March. We saw multiple 0 days patched in macOS Monterey, as well as a firewall in Sophos was allowing some remote code execution attacks. Previously to that, some big ones that we've had this year are in Google Chrome, iOS, and Mozilla Firefox, mostly around remote code execution and heightened privilege attacks. Who is vulnerable to 0 days? Well, we are, in really 3 ways. One, as the consumer, we're vulnerable to this. If we look back in 2021, I believe it's November, there was a Crypto.com attack in which 483 user accounts were taken, possibly through a third-party two-factor authentication service. So you might say, that wasn't very much, 483 users, but as a result, $34 million worth of cryptocurrency was taken. So put it in that perspective, it is a lot more unsettling as well. From the developer standpoint, we are vulnerable. So we might have made our applications exactly how we needed to, correctly, using best practices. But we were let down. We were an accidental victim because some other system that we're relying on for our application had a 0 day vulnerability in it, which is unfortunate, and that's the way it is kind of right now. So, and then as a company as well, if our company, we look at Crypto.com for example, who was left holding the bill from that vulnerability? Well, Crypto.com ultimately did have to refund the $34 million that was taken from those user accounts. So it's really the entire gambit. 0 day attacks are often focused on monetary value. So that's ultimately why I'd say that we are most all vulnerable, either the consumer company or developer. So 0 days are increasing. As I follow the 0 day tracking project, I'm a big fan of it. And just in 2021, they recorded 83 critical 0 day vulnerabilities. Why that's upsetting is that it's the most we've ever had in a calendar year. In fact, it's actually double the previous highest year, which was 2020. And this year, we're also seeing kind of about the same numbers as last year as well. Some of the reasons for this, well, I wouldn't say that there is a reason. There's probably a collection of reasons. But probably I'd say number one, the rise of the value of digital assets. I think that puts a big target upon access to that kind of data that has such a good monetary value. Number two, I'd say ultimately it's financial motivation. We've seen exploit as a service all of a sudden come out. So I'd say that this has been around for a long time, but often it's been more of a niche hobby, for instance. But just last year, we saw an article published by Bleeping Computer, which was able to outline a number of different high-dollar bounties being offered for access into critical systems like this. So I think that the folks that are attacking us are certainly financially motivated. Number three is the rise of some open source tool sets. You know, there is legitimate reasons to have some of these softwares. An example being Kali Linux. You know, for instance, these are valuable to test your own systems, but they're really easy to use, they're simple to get, and they're becoming more and more user-friendly as well. And then number four, the rise of nation-state or well-funded criminal enterprises that seem to be typically politically motivated, but based off of what it is that they're trying to accomplish. Some of them are becoming more and more aggressive in what they're after. Yes, I would say any industry where data has a value, a monetary value, is going to be a big target. I mentioned that a couple of times here, but so if we were to go ahead and outline some of the big ones, I'd say probably the crypto and NFT marketplaces and wallets. Number two is going to be the financial and investment organizations. Obviously, that money Sitting out in those services is very tempting for some folks. But also 3, government and critical infrastructure. If we look at the political objectives of some of these bad actors, I think that those systems are always going to have a big target on them as well. I think you can probably look at this from 2 perspectives. One is the reactive approach, and then 2 is the proactive approach. So for a long time here, I think reactive has been the way to do things. Ultimately, it kind of feels like a defeatist attitude overall, which is 0 days are going to happen. And when they do, we better make sure that we're on it as soon as possible. So from that perspective, to be reactive, patch management is the most important thing you could possibly do. Being able to quickly distribute patches out to your critical systems that are vulnerable to 0 days is essential. And it kind of goes hand in hand with good education and communication from your organization and your enterprise. Understanding when those 0 days are happening, understanding when the patches are being deployed, and just making sure that everybody who needs to know within the organization is able to deploy those at that proper time. But from a proactive standpoint, I think that there's a lot more that we can be doing, especially in the services that we're providing to our customers, our application stacks. At Eclypses, we really believe in application level security being a way to combat these 0 day attacks. For instance, our MTE product itself is a FIPS 140-3 verified with multiple US patents application level security. What it's able to do is protect your data, which when you look at it, the data is what's the valuable thing. And if the data is the most important thing here, secure it in your application as soon as you have it, protect it all the way up through your network, transport layer security, anything that you might have, all the way until it needs to be consumed. And the important thing too is to do it in a way that you're not relying on things that might be vulnerable to 0 day attacks. For instance, the operating system, the common communication protocols. Eclypses MTE is something that allows you to take your trust away from things that you don't control. It's no third parties that are being used. It's no operating system level securities. It's just MTE and it's application level, being able to secure that data as soon as you have it.